In today's photo deconstruction, I'm going to show you how I use two Nanlite Pavotubes for a really compelling color combination and super interesting catchlights. Hey everybody, Lindsay Adler here, and I have been using the Nanlite Pavotubes a lot in my recent work. Now, if you know me, you know that I love color. And a lot of times I achieve that with strobes and I use gels, but very often now I am using these Nanlite Pavotubes. All right, so what are they? Fundamentally, they are constant light sources. They're these tubes, they're LEDs, but what's great is they can go full RGB. So I can make them any color I want. I can make them bright, I can make them dim, I can also change the saturation. They're battery operated, they're portable, but I'm using them a lot in the studio. And I've been using them a lot for beauty images for a couple of reasons. One, they're a great way to add a ton of color to my shots, but also they make some pretty cool catchlights, which you're going to see in this shot. All right, so let me talk about the inspiration for this image. Now, my wardrobe stylist brought me this amazing head face piece with all of these gems. It's super unusual. And as I looked at it, I was thinking that if I could use multiple colors of light to illuminate it, depending on where the subject would pose their face and their head, it would catch different colors of light. And so I knew that would be really, really fun to play with. And so that's why I decided to bring out my Pavotubes. For this particular shot, I ended up using two Pavotubes and another constant light source. So what's nice is even if you don't have many of these, you can definitely mix and match. But one of the main benefits of how I'm using it in this shot is using it for really cool catchlights. So let's take a look at this. All right, so first and foremost, I used one Pavotube as the main light above my subject's head. And what this did is it gave top-down illumination, kind of carved out my subject's features. It sparkled in the gems that it would catch, but I also added a second. And I add that second below. Now the main light here, I did kind of it's like a blue-green, kind of a teal as the main light. And then my fill light, the second one below, I did red. So fundamentally, I was playing around with complementary colors. Basically a red and a version of a green. By the way, the two Nanlite Pavotubes I used here are the 30C 4-foot. So they're basically 4-foot tubes. I could have done this with smaller tubes since it is a beauty shot, but these are the ones that I had on hand. Also, Nanlite just came out with their version 2s of these. So there's some new updates, some new capabilities that you'll definitely want to check out. So I've got my Pavotube above and my Pavotube below, fundamentally creating clamshell lighting. Clamshell lighting is exactly that. But I'm able to create these little slices of light in the catchlights that adds just another level of intrigue to the shot. Because the headpiece is so unusual and the colors of light are so unusual, I think having the unusual catchlights adds another layer. So I've got those two. And then I have my third light source on the background. I have a Profoto D1 and I'm only using the modeling light. So obviously you don't need a Profoto D1 or a strobe for this. You just need another constant light source. I could have used another Pavotube, or I could have used another light source that was round and had a modeling light, whatever you have around. The reason that I chose the D1 in this case, like the modeling light, is because I could add a grid to the light. So you can actually see in this shot that the light's not illuminating the entire background. It actually is kind of circular and has a glow. And that's because I added a 20-degree grid to it. And by the way, I also added a gel, which you can see I added a magenta gel. So I just get this kind of glow of pink behind my subject. So those are the core ingredients of the illumination. But let's actually talk about my camera settings. I'm shooting with the Canon R5. And because I wanted this to be a really tight beauty shot, I decided to use the Canon RF 70-200 2.8 lens. And I knew that I wanted to get some really tight crops, but also that I wanted to shoot at a really wide aperture. I wanted to shoot wide open for this lens so that it would be sharp on the eyes and then like the gems would kind of fall out of focus as they approach the back of her head. I felt like it would make an interesting depth of field. So I shot at 1/200th of a second, which I can handhold for that lens, especially with the image stabilization. F2.8 wide open for that narrow depth of field, and ISO 200. By the way, I said that these Nanlites get really bright, and they do. But if I had like a dimmer light source, I could have bumped up my ISO. But the Nanlites are so bright that it isn't really necessary. I can still shoot pretty low. All right, so here are our core ingredients. But let me show you what I captured in camera versus what I did in post. And you can see I made some pretty fundamental changes to the shot. So this is what we ended up with. This is where the shot ended up with at the end of the retouch. Do you see those really beautiful catchlights? Like they're super intriguing. And as you look around the headpiece and the gems on my subject, you can see that there's just different colors being caught throughout the headpiece and throughout all of those gems. But here's where it actually started. So you can see that originally I had that kind of teal green and the red fill from below. But as I looked at this, I didn't know if I loved the teal on her skin tone. I like, teal green, it's kind of hard to work with that. And so I started to, in Capture One, so in a raw processor, I started to adjust the white balance and the tint. That's all I started to do, this shift and see how I could move the colors in one direction or the other. And so as I did, I realized that I actually liked when I made the colors look a little cooler, a little bit more magenta. So you can see I went from kind of greens and reds, and now I shifted it over more towards blues and magentas. You can see that the background even becomes more magenta. So this is the image just with a little bit of adjustment to the color, but without any retouching. And already I think it looks pretty nice, but you can see that there's some texture on her forehead. I think that there's a couple distractions in the way that the headpiece looks straight on like this. I think on the left-hand side, it's kind of sticking out, which I don't think is a beautiful line. I also think, in my opinion, that a longer neck would be nicer. In this shot, I'm shooting a little bit above eye level at her, which is beautiful because it's really showing her eyes. Originally, I had tried to shoot some lower angles, but I felt like the headpiece started to block her eyes. So that's why I chose that angle, but then it made her neck look short. So here's what I did in Photoshop. So we got rid of the distraction on the left-hand side of the frame. I liquefied down the shoulders, which, by the way, you can tell this is liquefied over here, but only if you know. And I also thought the sparkles in the earrings were a little bit distracting. They kept pulling me away from the subject's eyes, so I got rid of those as well. So this is where we started, and this is where we ended up. Now, by the way, I also did another version of this shot without using the third constant light, without using that D1 modeling light in the background. And so here is a version of this shot just using the 2 Pavotubes, and it's a totally different angle, a little bit more towards the profile. I loved these 2 images, and I tried different shots, sometimes with her hand or sometimes with her looking down, but these are the 2 that I thought were most impactful. Either large eyes connecting with camera or something playing with a little bit more of an elegant profile. I think these shots came out absolutely beautiful, and I've been loving working with these Nanlite Pavotubes. Now, by the way, if you want to see more creative lighting like this, and you want to see me work with these Pavotubes even more, you should definitely visit learnwithlindsay.com. In particular, you should check out my monthly subscription platform called Learn Plus. Now, every month on Learn Plus, I release a new episode, and in each episode, there's a different theme. So sometimes it's going to be fashion editorial, other times it's going to be color or photographing curvier subjects, you name it. And the idea is that you can watch me work behind the scenes with a lot of creative photographic techniques. So you get inspired, but you also learn technical elements. I've got behind the scenes videos, lighting recipe guides, there's Q&A sessions, critique, and much more. So if this is the type of thing you want to see more of, be sure to visit learnwithlindsay.com. And of course, if you like these videos, give me some love, like, subscribe, comment below, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.